Well, our next guest grew up working on her family's ranch on the Oklahoma-Texas border. Her passion for ag can be heard in her debut album she released earlier this year. Welcome to the studio. So happy to have her here. Jenna Paulette, thank you so much for coming in.
Hi, thank y'all so much for having me.
So boy, what a background you have. You are, I mean, this is not a costume. This is you. This is how you dressed. You grew up working on a ranch. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my family had a cow-calf operation on the Oklahoma-Texas line. So the Red River was the border. And it's in that little first town that you come across once you cross the Red River into Oklahoma, Thackerville. And it's tiny, tiny, and I absolutely loved working with my granddad and, like I said, cow-calf, so I loved spring and working calves in the spring and just everything about it. It just kind of got me really young, and then I would listen to Eddie Arnold and, you know, just good old-fashioned country music in the cab of my granddad's truck with him, checking cows, and it became a huge part of who I am. And I think growing up with somebody like my granddad as an example, and then seeing somebody like George Strait in country music, I was like, oh my gosh, well, George does what he sings about. So that became really important to me. I always felt like I was supposed to be a cowgirl and a country singer. And so those two things, like seeing him as an example, just kind of put it all into perspective.
Do you get to go back? Do you get to do it still?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I actually day work for a bunch of people like all the time. So yeah, so in between shows, I'm in Texas and I'm ranching and I am horseback, and it's the best thing in the world. And I feel like my best ideas either come to me on airplanes or in the saddle. And so I just like get back to my phone as quick as I can and record whatever has been going through my head through the day and yeah.
Well, I got to tell you,
songs.
I have thoroughly loved listening to this album, The Girl I Was. And, you know, you talk about being a real cowgirl and really knowing a real cowboy. You write about that. You ain't no cowboy. I mean, a cowboy knows how to treat a lady. And I love this song, and it really stands out to me. I mean, talk about how you kind of really infuse who you are, what you've experienced through these lyrics.
Yes. So that song in particular, I had been pitched so many songs in Nashville about what a cowboy is, and it all feels like it's so much from Hollywood's perspective about the cowboy riding away, and that's not the kind of cowboy I grew up with. My granddad, if he shook your hand and said he was going to be there at 6 a.m., he was going to be there at 5:50 and do whatever he said he was going to do until the job was done. And he was a man of his word, and you knew it by the way he shook your hand. And I just learned a lot about good character from men that work hard and men that, like, if you don't show up, things don't get done. You don't make money. You don't support your family. And I guess all the things that were important to keeping our operation and our name good are what made a cowboy to me. So I was just always so confused by the Cowboy Rides Away songs because it wasn't the measure of a cowboy in my world. It was more about who you are and living up to living under the hat that we get to wear.
There are a lot of ranchers right now at home going, amen. There is a story, you know, I always talk about, you know, of course, in this day and age of streaming singles, I love the fact that this is an album you have to listen to beginning to end. There is a story that you tell. I said, am I looking too much into this? But I hear a story.
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
You start out, of course, fiddle and violin. These people are so different. She winds up falling for the guy. And then by the song, You Ain't No Cowboy, there is the breakup. And she comes through some heartbreak. And some of those are, you know, Country in the Girl is one of those at the new girl that he's with. You take some jabs, and I got to tell you, it's so enjoyable.
Thank you so much. You know, we debated on whether to put, I heard she's vegan and she grew up on the West Coast. No offense, West Coast. I know y'all are big ag state. But it just made us all chuckle. And I was like, you know what? Like, girls like me are going to get that. And they're going to think it's funny. And not really a jab at all, but just like a fun way to poke, you know?
There are some great lines in that. But ultimately, she comes out on the other end of this. And even when she gets hit on by this guy called Truck Boy, listen, you're a $50,000 truck. Well, that just don't impress me.
Nope, it doesn't. I'd rather have a dusty old ranch rig any day.
Well, of course, the song you're going to sing, and it really tells a story. And I'm assuming that's why you named the album The Girl I Was. And boy, she's doing good. At first, I'm sitting here going, who's telling her that she's so great? And she's really telling herself. And I think we all need to do that. Really be okay with who we are and where we're at.
Yeah, that song, it was really just a note to self, you know, like, hey, go back to where you felt the most alive. And that was, on a four-wheeler, riding through the pasture, singing Wide Open Spaces at the top of my lungs. And I always thought if I could make people feel that way with my music, that I would be doing what I was made to do. And it was also real to me. And so I think it's easy to get caught up in the business of it all. And I had to just say, you know what, hold on a second, girl. Go back to that girl and put her back in the driver's seat. And so that's what we did. And I was so thankful when that song came out the way that it did.
I'm so excited you're in country music.
Thank
Boy,
you.
you're so darn good.
Thank
You're going to be, of course, making your debut Friday night, the
Yes,
Opry, the
at
whole
the
family
Opry.
coming
Oh
in from
my
Texas
gosh.
and Oklahoma. Everybody
Yes.
there?
It's one of those things that you don't know when it's going to come, and when it finally does, the timing's right, and that putting in the work and having it not handed to me has been the greatest gift, because I appreciate it so much.
Well, we appreciate you being here, girl.
Thank you.
Congratulations on
Thank
all
you.
the success thus far. Opry debut Friday night. Don't go anywhere. She's going to stick around. She's going to perform for us. Jenna Paulette when we come back, and also a look at the forecast with Jeff Womack. That's